Welcome to the Library Show. I'm Julia. Each April, libraries across the country celebrate National Library Week, a time when we highlight the many contributions that libraries make to the community. This year, we're celebrating April 13th through the 19th with the theme Lives Change at Your Library. And you're invited to stop by your local library to see all the fun things that we have planned. There are open houses and fun programs, and be sure to check our calendar for all of that information. You can find it at www.cobcat.org/calendar. On the Library Show, we have a fun segment planned for you. You'll hear about some of our favorite books, and you'll get to hear some of our tough questions that we have to answer every day. Up first, though, Donna is back with some of the books that have changed her life. Donna, I'm so excited to hear about what you brought for us today. Good morning.
Thank you. I am too. When I first got this assignment, I thought, but I've read so many books. They've all changed my lives. So I decided to start sort of at the beginning.
Okay.
When I was 8 years old, I read Tom Sawyer. It was the first book that made me laugh out loud, uncontrollably. And that started my appreciation for Mark Twain, for his humor, for his tendency to the overstatement. And when I discovered that a book would make me laugh out loud, I was thrilled.
Now, I have to ask, you were 8 years old. Did you read the illustrated version like I did? Because I had to have something with pictures. Or did you read the whole, like the real version?
I read the whole thing,
Good
the real
for you.
version. I think there were some pictures.
Yeah.
But mostly I focused on his words because they were so hysterical. I mean, Aunt Polly was a scream. And when they showed up at the funeral, their own funeral, like I said, the way he wrote was overstated, which made the calmness funnier. You know, when he would talk about 3,000 or 4,000 times when it was just like twice. So that led me to later, whenever I was a grown-up, read The Innocents Abroad, which if nobody has read it, it is absolutely hilarious. Mark Twain is paid to go on a vacation to the what do they call it, the tour, the European tour.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so he went and
read it, so.
he was writing all about his adventures on the European tour and how they drove the guides absolutely insane. And what fun he had. And the nice thing about The Innocents Abroad is that it's little snippets. So you can read just a little bit at a time. And if you read the whole book at once, it's a lot. But just, read a little snippet and laugh. And that's what he's for.
So are all of the books that really affected you, are they all funny?
No.
Okay, tell us about another one.
The next book I read that really affected me was The Diary of Anne Frank. It was censored at that time because this was in the 50s.
Oh, my goodness.
And so we didn't get the book that kids read now.
Really?
It censored some of the critical things she had to say about her mother and her father. But all in all, the story was so moving of the whole family trying to live so quietly like mice in this incredibly dangerous environment. And that began an interest in the Holocaust and in Holocaust books, which I am still reading today.
That is, I think, one of the books that definitely I think most people have on their list. It just really affects you.
It does. And like I said, it just started a love for reading all about the situation.
What else did you bring?
I brought another moving book, the autobiography of Malcolm X. At the time I read the book, Malcolm X was still pretty vilified in the press and just, from people where I lived in the South. And I read this book and got a completely different interpretation of his life, of his struggles, and also his own personal growth. And that impressed me a great deal. So then I started doing a lot more reading about Black experience in America. The next one is Think on These Things.
I haven't read this one either. This is completely different for me.
Very few people have heard of this. It's by J. Krishnamurti. He is an Indian guru, I guess you would call him. And he founded sort of not a religion, but a philosophical school. This particular book, he is talking to students much the way the Dalai Lama would talk to students. But he is doing it the Socratic method. He's asking them questions. They answer him. And then he's asking them more questions based on their answer to help them come to a different understanding of how we in America live so richly and we take so much for granted, and how the rest of the world doesn't live quite the way we do. But he also was encouraging people to think deeper.
Yeah.
And this book I read just profoundly moved me. After I'd read about 3/4 of it, I was just in awe of what he was doing and really thrilled with that experience.
So did this change the way that you saw the world? as it
Yes,
was?
absolutely, it did. It made me think a lot more deeply about everything that goes on around us, about things that I had taken for granted.
Oh my goodness. Wow, that's great. I'll add it to my must-read list. Now, we have to talk about this next one that I see on the table. I have to know why this one is on your list.
I started watching
Let me see it.
birds.
So
This is Peterson's Field Guide to the Birds.
Field Guide to the Bird.
It is great. I started watching birds, just a little bird here, a little bird there, and I got this and I learned about their calls. I learned about their behavior. I learned about which ones you can feed in your feeder. I learned how to recognize an eagle in the sky instead of it being a vulture. So this book was so helpful, and it really became, I hate to use the word like a Bible, but it, as you can see, it's been well used. Every time I would be looking at birds, I would have this and learn more about it. It's indispensable. There are a lot of more guides out now. There's Stokes, there are some others, but Peterson started it.
Started it all, huh?
So I recommend anybody who has an interest in birds, get a field guide, read it. I would pick it up and just read about a few birds, just to get familiar with the birds and their shapes. And it's just really enriched my life. I love birds. I love cranes and little towies. So it's been a joyful habit because I have that book.
I have to say, every bird kind of looks the same to me, but I should definitely
So
read
you
this
should
book.
definitely, because now I have several bird feeders in my backyard.
nice.
I had 12 different species during the ice storm.
Really? During the ice storm? They
During
were
the
all
ice
looking for
storm.
food.
They were all looking for food.
Good
They
for
were
you.
desperate, and so my knowledge of the birds really helped that.
That's
And it
awesome.
was just so much fun to see the different birds, what they do.
What do your cats think about all those birds?
My cats love to watch the
I
birds.
bet they do.
They watch the birds from the safety of indoors.
Okay.
And
No
they're
bird
just-
massacres in your backyard?
There are no bird massacres. We have all indoor cats, but they do love to watch.
Awesome. All right. Let's talk about this one, The Informed Heart by Bruno
Yes.
Bettelheim. Is that
Bettelheim.
right?
It's also an older book. It was
Okay.
written in 1960. He was a psychiatrist who was interned in one of the concentration camps. I believe he was in, well, I forget which one he was in, but one of the really terrible ones in Germany or Poland. And so he used his psychiatric background to survive the concentration camp.
Wow.
But also, what made this so important to me was that the way he related to other people was based on the other person. He didn't treat all guards as just, evil guards with nothing.
Which would have been understandable.
And which most people did. Instead, he saw the guard as a person.
Wow.
And he helped the guard to see him sort of as a person. And it's just marvelous on how we relate to other people, but also what happens to people in extreme situations. We see the gamut. We see people who just decide to die because they can't handle it.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
Wow.
It's a fascinating book.
All right, so you've got some more books here.
Now, are we out of time?
We are out of time, but can we get a list of them and we'll put them on our blog so that people can read all about all of your favorite books and the ones that have changed your life? Can we do
I
that?
will do. I will put a list of these on how French cooking taught me that things did not have to be overcooked for hours on end, but that I could actually serve fresh food.
Yum, sounds good.
Yes,
all right,
it was
awesome.
wonderful.
Okay, so take a look on our blog for all of those books and stick around for more of the library show. We're coming back. See you soon.
So what you want to do is, have you already enrolled? You're 25.
What did that just do?
Select the drop-down menu again.
Wait.
It's like you're already enrolled. Example here, so don't panic. You're ready to make your payment. Submit. You there it is.
Oh my God!
I really can't believe it.
That's awesome.
Good for you.
Welcome back to the Library Show. I'm Cindy, and I'm here with my colleague Nicole Knox. And in keeping with the theme of National Library Week, we want to celebrate you, our community, the folks that ask questions of our librarians every day. Throughout the week, we get thousands of questions that come in, people walking into our branches, calling us on the phone, emailing us, coming up with all kinds of questions. And we decided that it would be great to share some of those questions with you and then also give you the answers to those questions or the resources that were used to answer those questions. And so we're going to do that. And also we want to challenge you, if you'd like to join in the fun, to give us your questions. You can email us at questions@cobcat.org. Send in your question, and we will answer your question if we get enough at our next episode next month. So try to stump us. We're up for the challenge. And let's start with some questions. Nicole, why don't you start?
Okay, the first question we'll start off with is, what are the laws regarding Miranda rights in Georgia? And so we were able to find a reference book. This is Daniel's Georgia Criminal Trial Practice, and this has examples from different trials in Georgia. And on page 428, we were able to find a little information about Miranda. I'll just read the first sentence. Prior to any questioning, a person in custody must be warned of the right to remain silent. And it goes on and gives you great details about your Miranda rights. So this is a great book that you can find at Schweitzer. And also there's a reference Westlaw that Schweitzer has as well that has information about your rights in Georgia. And I believe Schweitzer has codes for federal law as well.
Yes, they do. The Schweitzer Library, which is the main branch of the library system, has a whole set of the Georgia law books as well as the U.S. Code. Also, our West Cobb branch has the Georgia law books as well, but you don't necessarily have to go to those branches. You can call those branches and they'll look that information up for you, or you can email us. So we try to make it convenient for you and save you a little time. Yeah. So yeah, that's a great question.
Yeah. Did you have one for us?
I do. This I thought was a really great question. That came in, let's see, where did my question go? Well,
I had one.
Oh, thank you.
That's available.
Thank you, Nicole.
Okay, a patron said she retired from a company as a result of the company asking employees if the employees wanted to voluntarily retire. She did. A month later, the company requested mandatory retirement of several employees and gave them a severance package. So the patron wanted to know what were her rights in her employment situation and whether she deserved a severance package as well. So there were several resources we were able to give her. This is an example of a book we have, Your Rights in the Workplace, that goes over in employment laws and what your rights may be regarding severance and retirement and that sort of thing. So this is available at Schweitzer and several other regional libraries.
Yes.
This is one you can get. And also, we found a great website at EEOC, and I'll go ahead and give the web address. It's www.eeoc.gov, and that also gives information on employment law, your rights at the workplace. And finally, we also found Cobb County Bar Association, and their website is www.cobbcountybar.org, and they have information on a referral service for Cobb County attorneys that specialize in employment law. And I have their phone number as well, which is 424-2947. And their hours of work is 9 to 5, Monday through Friday.
Yes, these NOLO books, all of our libraries will either have a copy or you can get them sent to your branch, or you can come to Schweitzer Library. We have a full set of these NOLO books on all kind of issues around law that can help you with small business, rights in the workplace, of course, doing a will. So these NOLO books are really great. Well, I have come up with a question that was asked, and this is, I think, something that is very much in the news here lately is, how can I get help with identity theft? And we were talking at lunch the other day about, we don't think there's anyone that hasn't been touched by this problem. And so we researched this and we came up with two really great websites. And we do, Google just like folks do. But what we're looking for is websites that we know are credible, authoritative, and have the best information. And that's where our librarian skills come in. And the website that we found was the Federal Trade Commission, which you can go to their website at www.consumer.ftc.gov. And there is just a ton of information, and it's step by step. What do you need to do right away to, what steps do you need to take to limit the harm that comes with having your identity stolen? What do you need to do to repair your credit after identity theft? What happens with lost or stolen credit, ATM, and debit cards? And this website will give you all this information of what you need to do to take care of that. And it also has sample letters. I really like this, with sample letters and forms that you could write to different entities to help you limit that damage that happens with identity theft. So the other great reference is a website called Identity Theft Resource Center. It's a nonprofit entity. They have a toll-free number that you can call at 888-400-5530. And the mission of this group is to provide the best victim assistance at no charge to consumers throughout the United States. They want to educate you on the best practices for fraud and identity theft detection, reduction, and migration. And you can go to their website. They even have a Georgia page, which tells you all the laws around, Georgia laws around identity theft. It will tell you how to put on a security freeze to your credit accounts and all the numbers of those credit agencies. That gives you the number of the Attorney General, Sam Owens, and how to contact him, and the information on all those credit services and how to contact them as well. So great site. Again, that one was the Identity Theft Resource Center, and their website is www.idtheftcenter.org, and they have that Georgia page. Great resources for that.
Yeah, that's a timely resource as
It
well.
really
That's
is.
very important. I wanted to share one with you, a question we got from the East Cobb Branch Library. They told us about a reference question where a patron came in. He was a World War II veteran, and he had participated in the campaign in the Pacific when he was 19 years old. And he wanted information about that campaign, but particularly about a campaign that regarded the protection of General MacArthur and his convoy of several hundred ships. And the patron actually remembered that because he fought in that particular campaign, and he shared with the librarians that he actually shot down 4 Japanese fighter ships that were attacking General MacArthur's convoy.
Wow.
So they were able to find several books on the campaign in the Pacific and information on World War II and books that he was able to check out, not just reference books. And also, they used the Newsbank database to actually find the article related to the that particular campaign that the patron wanted when he told them that he shot down 4 Japanese fighter planes. And they found that article. They did not find his name in the article, but he was very pleased just to find an article from 1941
I bet.
about what he remembered. So not only was the patron happy, the librarians were so excited that they were able to get
we
that
get
for
so
him.
excited we could find information for folks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that is all the time that we have for this segment. We have lots of other questions. And again, we want to challenge you to stump the librarians by sending in your questions to questions@cobcat.org. And thanks so much, and stay tuned for more of the show.
Today's libraries are driven by the needs of the community. Whether you're looking for ebooks, information on student loans, or 24/7 homework help for your kids, the Cobb County Public Library System has the resources to meet your needs and those of the whole community. Lives change at your library. Celebrate National Library Week, April 13th through the 19th. A message from the American Library Association's Campaign for America's Libraries and the Cobb County Public Library System.
Can you consent with me? Imagine what you'd see if every child had a book to read.
So the mission is for us to get a book to each and every child.
So let's join hands, book people unite. Unearth hidden passion. Come on, we'll have a good time.
One book can be the first thing helps to change a life. People unite.
Read to a child today and spark a lifetime of ambition.
Welcome back to the show. I'm Beth.
And I'm Shannon. We're really excited to be celebrating National Library Week this month, and in its honor, we've brought our favorite books about libraries. My first book is Thomas Jefferson Builds a Library by Barb Rosenstock. Thomas Jefferson, our third president, loved books. He loved books so much that over the course of his life, he collected more than 6,500 of them. That's a lot of books. And he donated his books, all 6,500 of them, to the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C. Today, the Library of Congress has more than 35 million books. And since the library is open to the public, anyone can go in and enjoy them. You can even have story time at the Library of Congress.
This book is called Lottie Paris and the Best Place, and it's by Angela Johnson. Lottie Paris is a girl with a big imagination who loves outer space. Carl is a boy with a big imagination who loves dinosaurs. For both of these kids, the library is their best place in the world. Not only can they find books to help them dream, dare, and discover, but they just might find a friend there too. I'd say that their best place is about to get even better.
My next book is No T-Rex in the Library by Toni Buzzio. Tessa and her mom are visiting the library, but Tessa is not behaving. That's why her mom puts her in a 10-minute quiet time. But she knocks over a book, and that's when T-Rex shows up, and T-Rex behaves even worse than she does. At first, she thinks it's fun going on a rampage with T-Rex through the library, but when he starts ripping up library books, she changes her mind, and she puts T-Rex in a 10-minute quiet time. I hope that you'll want to read this book, but please don't rip it up like T-Rex would.
Speaking of dinosaurs, I've brought Dinosaur vs. the Library by Bob Shea, who is one of my favorite authors. Dinosaur can outroar everyone he meets, which he proves repeatedly on his way to the library. But what happens when he actually gets to the library? Can he use his inside roar? This book is super fun to read out loud, so start practicing your best dinosaur roars. You ready? Roar! Shannon, how was that?
That was a really great roar, Beth.
Thank you.
My last book is The Incredible Book-Eating Boy by Oliver Jeffers. This book isn't really about a library, but it is about a little boy named Henry who loves to read. He can't stop reading books until one day, instead of reading his book, he decides to try eating it. And he finds out that he likes it. Now he's devouring books left and right, and he can't stop. I hope that you'll want to read this book and not eat it. And when you're done reading it, I hope you'll want to read some of Oliver Jeffers' other books. They're all fantastic.
I agree. Love Oliver Jeffers. Anyway, this book is called Book, 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 or should I say Book, 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 and it's by Deborah Bruss. Everything at the farm is great until the kids go back to school. Suddenly, the animals are bored, bored, bored. Naturally, they do what any enterprising farm animals would, head into town to find something to do. When they see all the happy faces at the library, they know they've come to the right place. But what happens when the librarian doesn't happen to speak horse or goat? Will these animals ever find anything to alleviate their boredom? Another book about animals in libraries that I really like is called Wild About Books, and it's by Judy Sierra and illustrated by Mark Brown. It's written in rhyme, and the authors even dedicated the book to Dr. Seuss, so it's lots of fun to read. One day, a librarian named Molly McGrew drives her bookmobile to the zoo by mistake, but decides to set up shop anyway. The animals aren't too sure about this new development, but soon they discover that they love books and they love their library, and who wouldn't? After all, lives change at your library. We hope you've enjoyed hearing about these fabulous, fabulous books, so why not visit your local library to check them out yourself? And stay tuned for more of The Library Show.
Community building connections are happening all the time at your library. From new moms connecting at story time, to small business owners convening to make opportunities happen, to teens meeting up after school, the library helps foster all types of communities. April 13th through the 19th is National Library Week. Visit your library. Lives change at your library. A message from the American Library Association's Campaign for America's Libraries and the Cobb County Public Library System.
NFC, AFC, offensive linemen, defensive tackles, quarterbacks, and cornerbacks are all working with United Way for a million little reasons. The kids of our communities. To ensure their academic success all the way to graduation day. You see, it takes about 12 years to create a graduate, but it takes the same time to create a dropout. And the difference between a kid becoming one or the other could be a professional athlete, or it could be you. Studies showed the earlier we get to kids, the better their chances. So become a United Way volunteer reader, tutor, or mentor, and make a difference in the life of a child, for the life of that child.
Give. Advocate.
Volunteer. Live united. Join your favorite NFL players. Take the pledge. Go to unitedway.org.
That's all the time we have for today. Be sure to check out our website at www.cobbcat.org. On behalf of all of us here at the Library Show, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Each year, our children are put at risk by drivers who ignore bus stop arms and warning lights. In Cobb County alone, more than 1,000 drivers ignore them every day. The Cobb Police Department and Cobb Schools have partnered with Operation Stop Arm to educate drivers about the new law to save lives.
Tragically, a young child was killed at a bus stop by a passing car in 2009.
While we were being interviewed by the news crew, a driver ran through the stop arm of the bus.
We had just installed new stop arm cameras on some of our buses and were able to hand the photo over to law enforcement. And now, with the new law, hopefully we will reduce violations of the stop arm law and have additional evidence to cite violators.
Drivers who pass a school bus with a stop arm activated can receive up to a $1,000 fine from the court and get 6 points tacked onto their driver's history. It is a serious offense.
So next time you're in a hurry and you're tempted to pass a stopped school bus,